Hi, I'm Felicia.
And I'm Giancarlo.
And this is our review of
Amber Root.
Amber root is a plant.
You remember Samurai Jack? Did you ever see that?
No.
You never saw Samurai Jack?
It's a cartoon, right?
Yeah.
Well, animation.
It's animated cartoon, yeah.
Yeah, okay, I know what you're talking about.
You never saw it?
Yes. No, I never seen it, but I know what you're speaking
You gotta watch it.
You gotta watch it?
It's like amazing. I'm serious.
Lumberjack Jack?
Yes, Lumberjack Jack.
They give you real amber inside.
Yes.
So here's the plan.
The pieces are pretty cool, actually.
If you're looking for amber stones, you're better off just getting this game because it's inside. So it's like a 2-for-1 deal. In Amber Route, players are leading a caravan full of amber from the Baltic Sea to the castle in the mainland. Try to get there as soon as possible while being wary of monsters, bandits, ghosts, and traps from Slavic legends that you'll cross on your journey. In the box you'll find 26 puzzle-like boards called blocks to make the game board with. This is the suggestion set up for the first game. 4 player pawns. Each player will choose a color and place it on the starting C board. 42 power cards which you'll shuffle, deal 5 to each player, and place the rest face down to form a deck. 60 encounter cards, placing them face down to make the encounter deck. 32 escort tokens, which will give 3 to each player and place the remaining in a pool. 4 aid cards placed near the board for easy access. 4 player cards, giving each player theirs based on their color player token. 40 pieces of amber, which will give 1 to each player and place the rest in a pool. A cotton pouch for easy storing for those amber pieces. And 5 dice, which each player will roll, and the player with the highest total will play first. You're now ready for adventure. Finish the game with the most points, and you win.
Each turn consists of 2 phases in this order: drawing and action. In drawing, you determine if you want to draw a power card or take an escort token. We'll go into what these do later. In the action phase, a player must choose one of the following actions: recruit an escort, drawing a power card, or moving forward. Recruiting an escort will make you take an extra escort token. 2 tokens if you're in a village space. You can never have more than 6 at any time. Drawing power cards lets you draw just that, but in this phase it will cost you a piece of amber to do so, as opposed to it being free in the drawing phase. However, here a player draws 2 cards instead of 1. Note that no players can ever hold more than 7 of these cards. The move action lets the player move his pawn 1 space forward. He can also, if he chooses to, discard an escort token to move 2 spaces instead. This is only allowed once per turn. Now, depending on where they land, an effect will trigger. If they are in a village, they gain an escort token. If they are in a castle, they'll get a piece of amber. And if they land anywhere else besides these or the last tile, they'll draw an encounter. Should they defeat that encounter, they can challenge any player on that block. Let's take a look at how these encounters work first.
When drawing one of these, the most important icons to look for are the ones on top. The one on the left will be a terrain icon. These will match one of the 4 as on the boards: forest, mountain, swamp, or hill. The one on the right will be one of the 3 types of encounters, being monsters, ghosts, traps. The bottom one will denote the reward you get from beating these encounters. Every reward card you keep that you don't use will give you 1 point at the end of the game. So you might want to hold on to these. Let's get back to the 2 top icons. If none of the icons there match any on the blocks that you're on, you got an easy encounter. If one of them match, you got a hard encounter, and if both match, you got a legendary encounter. The active player takes the aid card matching his encounter, and depending if he got an easy encounter, he'll look at this first line. Second for hard, third for legendary. Each encounter plays differently.
The monster encounter will have you battle it. To do so, you'll need to roll a 4, 5, or 6 for a hit, and do so a number of times equal to the monster's health denoted by its level. 2 for easy, 3 for hard, and 4 for legendary. You only start with 1 die, but in any encounter before they begin, player may discard power cards matching the terrains they're on and get that many dice bonus to a maximum of 5. Any of these cards without any terrain icon can be used anywhere. When decided what power cards to play, the active player starts off the battle by rolling those dice. As stated, any 4+ rolls will score a hit. However, that player can also choose to discard an escort token to spin up or down any die result by 1. So if you roll a 3, simply discard an escort token to turn that miss into a hit. If all else fails, you can even discard a piece of amber to change a die into any result you choose. If you don't get to kill the monster the first time around, he'll attack you. Depending on the encounter level, he'll roll a predetermined number of dice and will score a hit from certain numbers on. For every hit you take, you lose an escort token. If you can't, you lose a piece of amber to the monster. If you kill it, you will get the reward on the encounter card itself, plus the reward based on its level. If ever you get 3 pieces of amber, you'll place one on your player card and place the other 2 in a pool. This piece of amber is now secure and you can never lose it. Ghosts work the same way, except you need to roll a target number or higher to sneak past them, or you immediately fail and lose that many power cards. For traps, you'll need to roll the same number of each die. For this encounter, you start with 2 instead of 1. If you fail, for every missing die they failed by, the player loses a turn. Lastly, the Gift of Fate lets you roll a number of dice equal to players. Starting with the active player and going clockwise, he'll choose a die and get the denoted reward. If you successfully beaten the encounter, you may challenge any player on that block.
To do so, the attacking player must play a power card matching the terrain they're on in front of him. Both players then draw a card from the power deck. The defender can now play any number of power cards matching the terrain. The attacker can then add additional cards always matching the terrain. When done, the attacker rolls the dice he totaled, and the defender does the same. The highest roll total wins. If the attacker won, he gets to steal an unsecured amber piece. If the defender won, he gets to keep his piece. Note that here, players can use escort tokens to modify their rolls as in all other encounters. When a player reaches the last block, every other player has one final turn. Then we get into the end scoring. For every secured piece of amber, a player will score 3 points. Any unsecured piece is worth 0. For every reward card kept, they are worth 1 point each. The first player to reach the final block scores an additional 5 points, and each other player gets a -1 penalty for each block they are behind from the last tile. The player with the most points wins.
Okay, before we bring up the pros and cons like we normally do for other videos, we're going to do something different with this one. Let's start off by showing you the great components like these amber pieces, the great artwork which is very reminiscent of Samurai Jack the TV show, which we loved, and the rule book which has great examples. We even like the way you determine an encounter level and the different dice mechanics for each. That said, there are some huge flaws to this game that cannot go unnoticed. They completely break the game. First, the swing from the last tile to other players is tremendous. A player landing only 1 space behind is at a -6 point deficit. That's like fighting 3 easy to hard encounters and hoping that every reward card is one you keep. So because of this, your only true option in the action phase is to discard an escort token to move to, or you'll get left behind. But surely you'll go through all your escort tokens this way, right? Wrong. The other fundamental problem with this game is that their resources are so abundant, they lose their value. You get them in the first phase, drawing, you get them from defeating an encounter, from its reward, and from its level, you get them from Gift of Fate cards, which there is way too many of, and you get them from landing on villages. You also start the game with 5 cards. Believe us when we tell you we couldn't get any more tokens or cards because we were always full and we never lost to an encounter. The basis of this game hinges on you being as close to the final tile. Anything less is unforgiving with that much of a swing. So, here we'll have the game as is section, and this section will have the game as should be. Arrogant of us? Sure. Will it make the game more pleasurable for you? Absolutely. Now, I want to be clear. We did this because we believe there was something to this game and not to mock it. We talked about the game's resource not valuable enough because there is just too much of it. To rectify that, we played it again like so. Every player starts with 3 cards, not 5. We removed half of the 12 Gift of Fate cards to bring it down to 6. And more importantly, we completely removed the first phase, drawing, from the game. There was no real choice in the action phase in the game as is, because you needed to get to the last tile first. Now, in our version, there is real decisions to be made in the action phase, because you are going to run low on resources. That crazy swing of a 5-point bonus, that's gone. First player to get there gets a bonus of 3 points, and nobody suffers any penalty for finishing behind. Those 3 points is like a secured amber bonus, which is ample. And the player in the last tile breaks ties for even scores, which happens a lot more in our version without having a lopsided outcome. Remember, if a player has the lead, he can safely keep it by spending an escort token and moving 2. There is no way a player can catch up because he can only move at a max of 2. I urge all designers and publishers to playtest their games more and not to put out what seems to me like rushed products on the market. This game would have been great with little tweaks like this. I just don't understand how anybody can approve this game as such. And that whole "it's a great game for kids" argument does not fly well with us. Unless your kid has an IQ of a doorknob, then he might like it. In short, some great elements, but such a waste of potential to make it a really, really good game. This game needs a revision. With art tinkering, then it might be worth it, and we'll get 7 tweaks out of 10.